Welcome to gadgetfuel.tv. I'm your host, Shian Thofi. Today I got something really cool to show you guys. This is the Kodak Zi8 HD camcorder. This thing is small. This thing is handheld. This thing is packed with tons and tons of features. For example, it's one of the first mini handheld cameras that allows you to record in full 1080p resolution. So, let's take a closer look. Here we have our Kodak Zi8 HD camcorder. It has image stabilization, shoots 5 megapixel photos. It has your 1080p video at 30 frames per second. It also has your 720p at 60 frames per second as well as 30. Also, you could choose to shoot at widescreen VGA if you want to save battery life. As you can see, this thing is just sleek. It's attractive, it's small. If I compare it to my hand right there, or better yet, if I take out an uncased iPhone, compare that to that, as you can see, the height and the width are fairly the same amount, but your thickness is just a tad bit larger on your camera's end. Now, this isn't the smallest camera of its kind. You have one such as the Flip Mino HD that is considerably smaller than this camera, but has nowhere near the amount of features that this thing has. Not only that, personally, I think that this just looks a lot better. It looks more like a hardy piece of technology rather than your Flip to me, which just looks like a toy. However, this camera does have your gloss finish that leaves fingerprints. Now, this irritates a lot of people. I'm not one of them. It doesn't really bother me, so I can live with this gloss finish or whatever. Now, this camera is fairly small with a lot of features, so let's get started with my favorite one right over here. This is an external mic input. With this, you can just put in any mic you want, and you can have a lot better quality when it comes to sound, rather than these two little slits over here, like this one and this one. Down here you have your AV and HDMI outputs. Now, with your HDMI, you can watch HD on your TV coming straight from here. And this actually comes with the HDMI cable, which is really good. Under that, you have your DC input. In the bottom, you have your tripod. Moving on the top, I'm going to move on to the top right over here. Now, this is your macro setting. Now, the macro setting lets you focus on either a close object or the landscape. One thing I don't like about this macro setting is the click sound it makes. Let's say you're recording using your internal mics, these. You want to use your mic. You want to use your macro setting. That click noise will get picked up by the mic. So whenever you're recording and you use that macro setting and you play it back, you will hear that click noise, which I'm not really fond of. Moving on. Right over here you have your USB connector. Now, this is pretty cool. You just jack it into your laptop and upload it to YouTube straight from your camera. Now, this thing is flexible, which I like a lot, compared to your flip cameras where they stand rigid. Now, the more rigid they are, the higher chance they have of just disconnecting. So if you're uploading something on YouTube straight from your camera and you move around your laptop, this thing has a higher chance of just staying on there rather than your flip cameras, which might just disconnect since they're just, you know, sitting there rigidly. Over here we have your SD card. Now this thing can load up to, you can put up to 32 gigabytes on here. You could fit a 32 gigabyte card. Just great. Just a lot of memory. I open this up right over here. You have your battery. Standard removable battery. On the front over here you have your controls. You have a navigational little joystick right here. You also have your playback, your video, your trash, and your settings. So it's pretty cool. Right over here you have a huge screen, a huge viewing area. I love this screen. If you look at your flip cameras, those screens are very small. Those things actually, you know, bring back memories of the old school digital cameras back in the late 90s and early 2000s, you know, that had those fairly small viewing areas. This is not one of them. This just has a huge viewing area. So it's pretty cool. So let's turn this bad boy on. Right away you can see the options to record in whatever you want. Pretty self-explanatory. You have your digital zoom. But what we're interested in are the settings. I'm going to go straight to electronic image stabilization. Now this camera does have image stabilization and it's electronic. However, with the amount of battery that it consumes, it really isn't worth using it too much, because frankly the image stabilization isn't that great. It blurs up your image, and when you move around it just looks like everything is moving in a jerky, fluid type way. It just kind of looks like you slowed down the picture just a tad bit. Anyways, so you could use it. You could use a tripod. It does blur up your image. Just, you know, you gotta play around with it. Whatever makes you feel like using it. There's also face detection. Minor but highly effective little add-on that every camera should have. So that's about it. This thing's just an amazing, sexy piece of technology, and frankly, there's nothing more to it. So there you have it, other than a few minor changes that I'd like to see in the future. For example, a silent macro setting and an image stabilization that conserves more battery. Kodak really impressed me with their Zi8. Be sure to comment, rate, subscribe. Visit us at www.gadgetfuel.tv. This is Shian Thofik. I'll see you next time.